It is not 20-point Tuesdays. It's Wacky Wednesdays. How's everyone doing today? I see Cullen in the chat. We're probably going to start. Mewbot's got his background stuff going right here. Mewbot. So Mewbot, that can go away. Telling us all about where to go for stuff. So we are good to go. Can everyone hear and see me? Quote number 6. Yes. Perfectly balanced as always. Mewbot is. I changed my brightness. There we go. I like that a little bit better. Adjusting all the levels. This morning I was I was doing some Zoom meetings. So during the mornings, I'm hopping back and forth between Zoom, Discord, email, bouncing back and forth. So Colin, sorry, I missed your thing on Discord. I must have just been hopping over to Professor. Did you miss me in the last 20 minutes, Colin? I bet you it was in the last 20 minutes. I could go to you and look at Discord right now. But I bet you it was in the last 20 minutes because then I was setting up the stream and looking at a few emails before we get started here. Was it? We'll get started on the assignment right here. I'm going to pull up the assignment in the background. Well, we got this going on right here. So we're talking about some 320 to start. Cullen is here for some 320 assignment number 2. I know this is a tough one. We've dropped a lot of hints so far. And the biggest thing is to just to work on it in short amounts of time. Do not work on this all at once. And do not sit down an hour or two before it's due and be like, I'm going to complete this whole assignment. I'm just going to rush through it because everyone will tell you, your mind will just be like, nope. It'll be like, I don't get what's going on. So you want to work on it and get stuck. And then you'll be like, okay, how do I do this? Email me, ask questions, watch some of the streams, come on here and ask a specific question like, hey, Brian, I'm working number 2 and I'm stuck. So Colin, let me ask you, and we'll go to the main screen here in a second. I might be on 5 different spots when we start that up. Colin, we got a new sound effect. I don't know if it was playing yesterday. It should be playing. I think everything's playing. I've been doing so many fixings of small things. This is what happens when you stream. You change one thing, and then you got to be like, okay, I got to change everything around. But which question shall we work on to start as we get settled in here? Getting ready to go. Random quote from Mewbot. What shall Mewbot say today? What shall we do to get started here? You bet, Stat Nation, Mewbot. What question shall we do to get started? It is anyone's pick. We've got an open schedule right now. We are here. Let's see what people are saying. 1, I have the code running correctly, but I don't know if it's what the answer should be. 1A or 1B? 1A or 1B? Which one are you working on, 1A or 1B? I'm looking at my levels right now. That's good levels. I got that all the way up. It's loud. Oh, wait. People tell me. There we go. Turned up the volume just a little bit more, and I want to know if 1B. No worries. Colin, I want you to tell me if the volume is better or worse right now. I'm just doing some fine adjustments right now because we have neighbors below us now, and I'm like, I hope they don't hear me talking all the time. So that's why I talk more like this in this voice when I teach sometimes now. Let's go here to 1B and let's hop over to that main screen. I'm gonna do one more setup thing right here. We need to go to Wacky Wednesdays. No, I don't have Wacky Wednesdays easily on here. So we'll worry about that when I end the stream. So let's go over here. You know what? I'd prefer us to just have Mega Man. If we're going to have one of these, let's see some Mega Man right here as we switch over to work on 1B. And here comes Mega Man right here. Where's Mega Man at? Oh, it's the speed runs. Well, at least we get to see that. That's some awesome stuff right there. I really like it. So with this right here, we're talking about 1B. And let's look at 1B. And let's talk about the output for it. So this is, let's put a note right here so Brian knows. Let's do note to Brian, or let's do timestamp. So this will be 1B, so it'll be 320, 1B, Q, 1B. What should the output look like? So that's what we're doing right now. We're just doing Q1B. What should the output look like? We're going to talk over that a little bit here to make sure we have kind of the right output because I haven't given away the answers. Okay, so with Q1B, we've got some names, some pets here. Morty, excellent name. Tags and Superdog. It's funny. It's every other one is my favorite. Not that I dislike the other ones, but with this right here, you're turning this into you're basically ripping apart the for loop. Does that make sense? In Q1A, you're putting this into a for loop, and then in Q1B, you're ripping this apart. So you can see what the output should kind of look like here. It's not going to look just like this because here, I'll show you if we were to turn Q1A into a for loop S question, we'd need a skeleton. Now I need someone to help me with 100 points in the chat. Who knows where the skeleton is on any of these lines of code? Which line of code is the skeleton? Which line of code right here is the skeleton? Which line of code is the skeleton? Which line of code is the skeleton? Skeleton's the thing that repeats, that never changes when you run the code. We'll give some. It is 73. 73 is the skeleton. This is kind of the control panel for it with the variable. So let's put some notes right here. This is just notes for us for the moment. There's my 4. This is the variable. This is the vector, and I type 2 Fs. It doesn't have 2 Fs. And this is the skeleton. If I knew where my hashtag was at, skeleton. You learn where more keys are at when you have to type code. So this is the skeleton right here in the middle, and the skeleton does not change. The skeleton will be the same code every time it runs. So this is going to be some help for Q1A also, and to kind of show us, like, if we were to answer Q1A as Q1B, what would the output look like for Q1A? So the first thing we need to do when we write a for loop is figure out some sort of skeleton. Do you see code here that repeats? Lines what through what? And I'll kind of maybe go with this answer. It's my turn to answer a question. I get the 100 points. We have lines 46 through 52 just repeat endlessly. And this is not the answer to Q1A. So be listening to the videos and following along. This is how we can identify a skeleton. And the skeleton is the code that repeats every time the for loop runs. So when I grab this right here, you'll notice that I'm going to turn it into a skeleton. So this will help for Q1A also. What I'm going to do is I'm going to notice the pattern in this code. Notice how this code 4 increases by 1 every time, 2 increases by 1 every time, 2 increases by 1 every time, 1 stays the same. So 1 doesn't need to become a placeholder. I'm going to go right here and change 4 to I, and then I'm going to express 2 in terms of I. 2 is going to be I minus 2. Now, why does this currently work? Why does this currently work right here if when we start this code, I is 4? What would this evaluate to? And let's just see right here. If I is equal to 4, then what would this code evaluate right here to? This code right here would evaluate to 2. And isn't that what we want? Don't we want don't we want that spot right there? You'll see it right there to be equal to 2. What do we want this spot right here to be equal to? Let's look up there. We want it to be equal to 2, and that's equal to 2. Now, the next time the code runs, I becomes what? If this is a for loop, and we're talking about the vector of values I will go through. What value will I become next when the for loop runs? I will become what the next time the for loop runs? The next time the for loop runs, I will become, it's for the first time. So it's for the very first time it runs. The for loop it puts 4 into I the very first time it runs. That's when it puts, yep, Sean, nice job right there. So it goes to 5, and then we run this line of code right here, and this I is currently 5, just so you can see that's what's there. And then this line runs here, and that's 3, and then this line runs right here, and that's 3 also. So you can see how it just changes what the value is, and it's going to do it for us. So you might say, well, how does this relate to the previous question? Well, watch this. We can make a for loop kind of manually here, and this is not the answer to this question, not the answer. If you're watching, do not copy this all down. Let me put a thing here like not the answer, because sometimes I think people watch this without audio. I am explaining things. So I want you to listen in and be like, oh, like every time it runs, what do you notice here? What do you notice every time something, there we go, we need to screw this. What do you notice is not changing about this code when we run it? It's doing that weird thing. No, it's doing the weird thing. I've had to do this before with the screen. Maybe I need to zoom out. Well, let's restart R here in a second. Let's save the file. Let's restart R. Don't save. There's my GoXLR mixer. Let's restart the file. Did it fix it? It does that weird thing every once in a while where it doesn't show parts of the screen. I've seen it do that. Look at that. We're back. We're back. And now we see what's going on here with the code. And I was still copy pasting. I was like, where's what I'm going? Okay, so if you notice right here, what never changes? The skeleton. Every time we run this, it's going to go 4 skeleton. I is 5 skeleton. And then skeleton. I is 6 skeleton. I is 7 skeleton. I is 8 skeleton. I is 9 skeleton. I is 10. Oops. Skeleton. So what you have to think about here, and this literally gives away 1A also, what is the placeholder for what changes right here? When you look at a for loop, there's 3 elements to it, and we should know. We have the skeleton, code that repeats. This is huge help for 1A also. And then we have a variable, and the variable is placeholder for what changes in the skeleton. And then vector values, vector values the placeholder will take on through each loop. Okay, so when we look at this right here, you should be able to identify, and this is pretty much the answer to 1A for anyone who's done it. Where do you see the skeleton line on here? Where do you see the skeleton code? Tell me a line with the code that has the skeleton on it. Where do you see a line of code that has the skeleton, which is the code that repeats? Never changes. The skeleton never changes. Skeleton's inside the for loop. 62, you are right. Rachel, great job, 100 points, Rachel. Does anyone see the variable, which is the placeholder for what will change in the skeleton? So do you see a placeholder in the skeleton, some sort of variable that will change? So it's the variable is the thing that changes. We can call it anything. Any name works. So it can have any name. It doesn't matter what it's called. It can be called maybe like one letter. I, Rachel, another 100 points. Great job, Rachel. So the placeholder, the variable is the placeholder for what will change, and that's currently I right here. And then we have the vector. Does anyone notice the vector that I goes through? Can anyone tell me, and do it like in vector format if you want, can anyone tell me the vector I will go through? I messed with my lighting. I messed with my cameras. Never change your setup. Never do it. Never do it. What is the vector of values I will go through? So you have to identify these three things to write your for loop. You have to be like, okay, this is my placeholder. This is the code that it'll be put into. And then this is the vector of values it will take on as it runs. And you can use levels. You can use words. You can use all different things. Yep, Rachel, amazing. Yeah, that's it. Have you done this one yet, Rachel? Because you basically, if you know that, if you know the skeleton, you've got the skeleton on the screen, you kind of just need to go here. And from here, I'll leave it to people to fill this out, but that's got it. Now you would just take everything. So Rachel, so I'm making it so people actually kind of have to watch and listen and think, because does it make sense what the answer is to this one? Does it make sense what the answer is? Like you would put the skeleton there, you'd put the variable there, you'd put the vector there. So you've kind of given all the answers, which is good. Yep. Hey, what's up, Carson? So good to have you here, man. So good to have you, Carson. We got Colin, we got Sean, we got Carson. So good to have everybody. We got Mubot. What's Mubot got to say? Mubot, what you doing? What you doing, Mubot? Basically, there you go. Did you know the 15th derivative is called a Thanos? Did you know that, Colin, that the 15th derivative? There's like derivatives called snap, crackle, pop, and the 15th is called a Thanos, according to Mubot. Mubot maybe knows these things, but there is a snap derivative, so snap, crackle, pop. Those are like the 6th, 7th, 8th derivative or something. So it's crazy. I don't know who named these derivatives. But does this make sense, Colin, right here? So I want you to look at this. We won't say the whole thing, but what do you think this code, you can put this one in the chat if you want. What do you think this control panel will do the first time it runs? What will this control panel do the first time it runs? And if you know that, you can actually do the answer to question number 2. What do you think this control panel will do the first time it runs? You can put the answer in the chat for this, like the first thing it'll do. And so the control panel will put Colin asked a good one right there. Count the, remember, wait, let's go back to the top. So this is kind of what's happening here. So don't think about the skeleton yet. So think about what this is going to do here. This will run, and then this runs. This will go back and run, then this will run. It'll go run. Here's the full for loop. You ready? Boom, boom. Run, 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 and run, run. That's what that it'll loop through. And did anyone catch how many times the for loop ran? Because that's another big hint for this question too. Did anyone count how many times the for loop ran? Did anyone count how many times the for loop ran? Because you'd be like, it ran through exactly 5 times. The for loop ran exactly 5 times. Maybe there's something about 5 that's important. So then, 5 times. And then when you think about this for loop up here, this for loop ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. kind of like it was running all of these lines of code right here. It was doing all that code right there and just changing what I is. So you notice how I changes right here. What will change in this for loop? When this for loop runs, what will change? Like what will change in the for loop? What, in other words, what is the variable? What will change in this for loop as it runs? What's the placeholder for what changes? What's the placeholder for what changes in this for loop? Because this will change every time the for loop runs. What's the placeholder for what changes as this for loop runs? And that would be the variable. So use your cheat sheet down here to tell you which one the variable is. This is not an answer. This is not code. This will not run. If you leave things like this in your assignment, it will crash. Why is not the placeholder? Look. Wait. Good shot there. 100 points, Colin. What is the placeholder for what changes? And the placeholder for what changes is the variable. I'll go back here to our notes here. Make sure you have this right. You could screenshot this now if you want. 10-second screenshot time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great job, Rachel, right there. It's word. So word is the variable. I've got this here as a cheat sheet. Word is the variable. And so now I want you to think the first time this for loop runs, word will become what? What will save into? Word. And that's pretty much the answer. You're right. It'll be word. Word is the placeholder. This might as well be called, don't change it to this, but it could just be called Brian. It's arbitrary what we call it, and that's why I do things like saying, oh, that could be called Brian, and then it runs the for loop. It doesn't matter what we call this. It can be called Cullen, so we can do that right there. Or Cullen with a C. Happy accident right there. And it works. It doesn't matter what we call it. It just has to be the thing that changes, which we reference here, and then it's going to tell it to change it down here. So whatever you call it, you can just call it Q1B. So this code is saying error. This code right here is saying error. Make sure to run this line of code, this line of code, this line of code. Here, I'll drop it in the chat for you right here. Make sure this will work right here. It should be given also. Make sure to store a blank vector to start. So run the blank vector code. I'm on the wrong screen. I used to all the time go to my screen where I'm broadcasting and try to move things on that screen. And you could use Q1B. It says Word. Just tell me if the graders are like, what did you do? Maybe change it back to Word. So when this code runs right now, we'll change it back to Word, lest people get too confused. But that was just to show it can be called anything. Just showing it's arbitrary what we call that. The code runs any way we do it. So think about what happens the first time. They call me a minute. It says error object y not found. Run line 91 right here. This line right here. Boop. Because what's happening is you're trying to store into y, and you're like, go to my house, and someone's like, your house is not built. And you're like, okay, let me build the house first. And this builds the vector y so that the vector y exists in the global environment. If the vector y does not exist, like if I go here and go to y and go to, is it remove rm y? That'll remove y. And now if I try to run this, it'll say object y not found. So you have to first create the object y and then run it, and then it'll store into it. So y has to exist to then write to y. Because you're saying like store it here, but then it's like that does not exist. I cannot write there. It should auto, I guess, I mean, maybe people, I don't know. I guess it's like people are like, nah, you should have to create it first. We can't just make it for you. It's craziness. So what are we thinking about this? What's happening on this line the first time? I'll let people drop that answer in the chat if they want. What is happening on this line the very first time? And I kind of showed it. So be thinking over what's happening on this line the very first time, because I've kind of showed it right here. It's not storing into y though. It's not storing into y. So remember right here, and then look at the code, look at the skeleton. So you see how it's storing into the placeholder? The first value in the vector is storing into the placeholder right there. The first value in the vector is storing into here, and then it runs the skeleton. So that's kind of the big hint, because I don't want to write this on the screen. But so what's going to happen right here? Does anyone know? 100-point question. Who knows? Who knows? You can drop this one in the chat. Like if I'm like, hey, you can put this code in the chat. You can definitely write what's going to happen right here. Who knows? Who knows? Someone has to tell us, then we'll know. We'll have a good shot at the answer. So yeah, what is the first thing this will do on this line? What is the first thing this for loop will do on this line? this is a key thing you have to understand. Like you're like, oh, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to change this to this. It's going to save this to this. So what is the first thing the for loop's going to do when it runs? It's going to save something to something is a hint. Like I'm kind of saying it. It's going to save this into this. And think about this. Identify right now what the variable is, what the vector is, and what the skeleton is. So you see we have variable, we have vector it goes through, and we have skeleton. So I'll ask a simpler question right here. Every time the for loop runs, it will take on an element of the vector, and it'll start at the first element. So what element of the vector does this for loop start on? Like what is the name of the element that this for loop starts on? This for loop will start on what name of the vector first, or what element? Superdog, you are correct. The for loop will start with superdog. And then what will the for loop do with superdog? What will the for loop do with superdog? Here's the element, the first element up here, and here's what it's doing with it. So think about the code you would write to write this down here, where the variable is word, and the first element. No, not yet. It hasn't done that yet. So wait, what is it going to do first? What is it going to do first? The very first thing, you're right there. The very first thing it's going to do, here's the hint. Your code's going to look a lot like this right here. Your code's going to look a lot like this, because this was the first thing of the previous for loop, and then it's doing this right here. This is the variable. This is the first element of the vector. So you see, this is the variable. This is the first element of the vector. This is the variable. This is the first element of the vector. Carson, you might have to send it to me. You might have to send it to me. Especially, it sounds something's way off. So wait, keep looking. This is the variable. This is the first element of the vector. Variable, first element of the vector. Variable, first element of the vector. So you see variable, first element of the vector. Variable, first element of the vector. So who thinks they know? Oh wait, did Ryan? Oh my gosh. Ryan, how'd I skip that? Ryan, you're totally right. Oh, Carson, Carson, send me your code. Something's way off. Carson, email me the code. I'll take it. I'm sorry, something, or re-download the assignment. Wait. Oh, Rachel, you're actually, there we go. I know Ryan, it wouldn't be because unless we did this, Ryan, you would be correct if it looked like this. If it looked like that, Ryan, you are correct. And Rachel, that is the actual answer. So I know I looked at it, and then I looked at it again. I was like, wait, that's right. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So Ryan, if it was this would be correct. Does that make sense? Why? And so Ryan, 100 points, Rachel, 100 points, Carson, 100 points. Great job getting all your points today. But does it make sense here that this would save superdog into I? And then what is the next thing? We're going to put it back to this, though. What is the next line of code? And you basically have the answer here. What? No, don't worry, Ryan. What is the next line of code that will run? You can copy paste this in the chat. After it saves superdog into Word, what is the next line of code that will run? What is the next line of code that will run after it saves superdog into Word? Yeah, this prints it. This prints the vector right here. So it shows you what's in there. Yep, so Carson, keep that. As this is right here, this is meant to stay. Not yet. So once it saves superdog into Word, what does it run next? And here's the hint up here. So it saves blah, 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 and then it blah, 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 blah. Rachel, you're right. Rachel, you're right. Because once it does this, it then runs this. But this never changes. This is the same thing every time. Do you see up here how this is the same line of code? We can probably highlight it and it'll show us like all these are the same. Like you can look, all those things are the same. That never changes. The skeleton never, ever, 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 ever changes. The skeleton's the same line of code. So every time it moves the variable through the vector, it then just runs the skeleton over and over and over and over and over again. Is this making, Rachel and everyone else, is this making a little more sense right here what these for loops do? And this is how you turn something into a for loop, and this is how you show what a for loop's doing. So think about this. One line of code, second line of code, third line of code, fourth, okay, I'm gonna make a big hint here. First line of code, second line of code. Oh, wait. First line of code, second line of code, third line of code, fourth line of code, fifth line of code, sixth line of code, seventh line of code, eighth line of code, ninth line of code, 10th line of code. Does Rachel with that, did you kind of see the pattern? Do you see what's going on right there? How the for loop goes? First run, second run, third run, fourth run, fifth run. Does that make sense right there? Yeah, that's about as big of it as I can drop. Like I've kind of shown the answer right there. Like I don't want to write the answer. I'm trying to do more like you have to think about it. You have to like follow on and be like, I get it. I want people to. I really want people to get it. Like I don't know. I got worried because I did a few things on a few of the assignments where I kind of like wrote some things that weren't quite the answer, and I was like, oh, you should look at this. I did make one mistake though. I did use the levels vector wrong. I think did that impact 474? I did make a mistake because I do that sometimes. The code in your console is what I see. Yeah, this right here. Oh, good job, Carson. So this right here, this code in the console is printing out the values. And now your answer down here will be the 10 line of codes that I showed. So your answers down here will be the 10 line of code. So you will need 10 lines of code down here. And we'll take a lot more questions. Carson, feel free to ask, and I'll probably have to look at it if it's still not working or re-download it. But who else has questions? Questions 2, questions 3, 201, 474. If you have a question, now's your chance. There's no questions currently out right now. The only thing I'm confused about is since we stored Superdog in Word, do we run this or do we need to fill in the word? You'll run that right there. Yep. Great question, Rachel, because right now, what is Word? Word is Superdog. Since you just stored Superdog into Word, this is the same thing as running Y Superdog save into NChar Superdog. So the skeleton never changes what it is. You just change what the placeholder is in the skeleton. So every time you run, great, Rachel. Even when I was first doing this, like, well, it doesn't matter, but it's the theory behind it that matters. It'll run the same way if you put Superdog there and run it that way. But the whole point is that we're actually writing the skeleton that never changes, and we're showing that by being like, oh, this line of code is always the same thing because it just changes what this is, then runs the skeleton, changes what it's the next vector, next value in the vector, and got it. Do we need to load anything before starting the assignment? I don't think so. You'll load things at the end right here, not right here. But you don't have to load anything till the very end when you load in the tips data frame, which I made some updates to. So now the question says repeatedly to use the tip percentage. If for some reason you use tips, don't worry, that's all right. So big clarification right here. Do you want to talk over question 3 some? We did question 2 yesterday, and I'm more than happy to do question 2 again. If you're 201, 474, you can always say like, hey, Brian, I'm working on this. We just put the questions in line, do them as they come. But I can go over some of how to do this question. And the biggest thing is the theory behind writing for loops and the practice you get doing it. Like you can write this for loop in a minute or two, but understanding why you write it and how you write it's the important thing. So there is a lot of like steps down here that we give on how to do it. So, the practice is what's important, being able to do it. So helper number 3, you got it, Ryan. So let's do something as similar as we can do to this without doing this question. Let's think about it. And like if people are following along, they'll be able to kind of augment their code, because a lot of times I'll look at code to like help me out in practice, and they'll be like, okay, I get how it works. So I'll look at an example code. Like what's better than an example to show you like, here's how to do this. You watch cooking videos to learn how to cook. So there's a coding video. Okay. So with this question right here, you need reg class, 500 point question. I mean, get your 500 points extra, like for the week, you'll have almost all the points you need. If someone said this line of code does not run, I'm gonna put a mark in the video right here. Let's do here, loading/installing libraries. Your friend says to you, I'm trying to run reg class, but it just doesn't load. I run it, and I know mine's loading, but I run it and it says error, error, error. What would you tell them? What would you tell them if your friend says, I'm running reg class, it just doesn't run? I don't know. So this is something we should know if we do library something and it doesn't run. And the good news is they updated our install reg class. Boom, Ryan, 500 for the week right there. Or like you're nearing your 1,000 because we put that. So I'll drop this in the chat also. If this doesn't run, let me show you something though here. Be very careful. Do not put this in the upper portion of the chat or in the thing there. Let me drop this in the chat. That should do it. Run this. And run it down here in the bottom console. Like run your installs down here, because if you run them up here, you'll run into the following problem. We'll put it up here as though we actually installed it. We'll do this. There we go. Where's my install? Install HTML. Did I get the error? Yes. Oh wait, random was not assigned. 2 seconds. I'll show the error here in a second. Random 5. Let's see if it knits now. Knits good. Oh, wait, it's random because I did put the choose random. Oh, because that. Okay, let's try it again. Now let's show the error if it happens. I'm trying to replicate an error. Is it not doing it? Loop sequence. Oh, I've got a whole bunch of... I got more errors than we can deal with in this. Does it actually knit to HTML? That's really funny if it actually does. No wonder it does that for me. And then this one should not. Okay, duplicate reference. It actually knits. Does it ignore those lines? I don't know if it's my version of RStudio, but my version of RStudio actually knits these. So it's really weird to me, but mine actually knits these completely. I've always had problems when you knit with install.packages on there, but mine are knitting. So maybe it's the newer version of RStudio, but I've definitely had students crash when they try and knit that. Maybe it's because it already has the package, so it ignores that, but don't put those in your code. I've seen it crash. I've seen people crash because there are RStudios trying to knit a install. So if you have the install there, I've seen it crash, and I was trying to replicate it, but I don't know. Is that worth an error? Mubot can decide if that's worth an error. So let's see right here. Let's turn on Mubot's counter. Boom, counter on. Okay. Let's talk about some question 3 right here. We learned how to install packages. It's just the install Mubot. And so let's go here. Example of what to do for question 3. This is not question 3. Not actually question 3. Okay. So in question 3, you're doing the mean of a certain of the days of the week. So we're going to take the tips data frame and work with it on a different variable and do a different subset. So maybe we want to, we can do by party size. So we can actually go through and get the average tip per party size. So if you see here, we got a variable party size and we have a variable tip. And so let's think about this. Now, how many, I need someone in the chat to help me out, 100-point question. How many party sizes do I need to find the average tip for, like, to do this code? How many do I need to start out doing the average tip for to make my code work for all of them? So I want to find the average tip for all the party sizes, and then how many of them do I actually have to find the average tip for? How many, like, there's like 5 different party sizes. I can find that out really quickly. I can go to unique, party tips, party size, and there's the unique values. Let's go to sort. How does it sort them? There we go. There's the sort. These are all the unique values of people's party size. So we have party sizes of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so this is how many of these will I need to find the average tip for, and then I could do it for all of them. How many of these do I need to find the average tip for, and then I could do it for all of them? Hint, I'm writing a skeleton. I'm going to write a skeleton here to start, because we don't start with the for loop. We start with the skeleton. But how many of these party sizes should I find the average tip for? Not all 6. I will find it for all 6. 100 points there, Colin. I will find it for all 6, but I first find it for 1. So I'm going to first find it for 1 party size, and then we're going to then use the code for all of them. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go to sub and then subset, and I'm going to subset the tips data frame, and I'm going to do it on party size. I've already got the party size variable there. I'm going to do equals equals to 1. Now make sure you do equals equals. Even I forget sometimes to do equals equals, and I'm like, why doesn't my code work? And I'm like, oh, I used equals, not logical equals. Every time you make a subset, take a look at your subset. Is this the party sizes of 1? Yep, and there were only 4 parties. That's probably me. Go and grab some, like, Taste of Thai. Go to Taste of Thai, best restaurant in Knoxville. Aside from Hard Knocks, what was it? We're talking about, I learned about some new Mexican places like Paco's Tacos, and there's another one. I got some Mexican suggestions. Really excited about those. I'm going to come back to Knoxville. Suggest your favorite restaurant in the chat. You know, that's how we roll. Good restaurants, good food, especially when the world gets a little more back to normal. Grab some good food. We want to get the mean tips for these. Let's go here and go to tip, and let's go to mean, and that's going to show us the mean tip. We might do NA remove equals true. No. That's what you don't check to see if it's equal to true. You set the condition of NA remove equal to true. So you see the difference between equals equals, which says, is this logically equal to this? And NA remove equals true means you're setting the argument NA remove to be equal to true. And so we see everything working perfectly right here. Now here's the thing. I need to store this somewhere. Let's store this into, I need help. I need to call this something. This is like the average tip party size or something like that. So I'll go ahead and do this one. To go AVG underscore, I don't like underscore, tip party size. AVG tip party size right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to store a blank vector here to start. And then we're going to go down here, and we're going to go right here, and we're going to go to position 1. And let's run the code. And it worked, I think. Oh, it's calling it that. I'm going to call it. Oh, this will confuse people if I do this. Okay, I'll do it the way I want afterwards. I don't want to confuse people. We're just running the loop right here. Does anyone see the placeholder? Anybody? Oh, well, darn. Does anyone see the placeholder? It'd be much easier if I had a placeholder. Does anyone see the placeholder or the variable for what will change as this loop runs? And I'm running the loop manually right here. Would we be using tip percent? Yeah, you'll be definitely. My problem is similar, but a little bit different. My problem is you'll be using tip percentage, and you'll be doing it by day of the week. So you'll be doing day of the week, and you'll be doing tip percentage. My problem is it's got a few key differences. Like you'll be using a string right here. Does anyone know, since you're using a string right here, well, when you write your example, just make sure your example works, because if you notice, did my code work? Did my code find the actual, just the different tips per party size, the tip amounts per party size? Did it find all the ones? Did it go through the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth? It kind of looks like it. Like we have a vector of tips, and it's going up by based on the party size, like party size of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so it looks like it's increased it each time. And if you notice right here, where is the placeholder? The placeholder is the variable of the thing that will change. And I could call this party size right here for PS. And party size is going to be equal to 1 to start. And now watch this. We'll call this party size right here. Party size right here. We'll run the code. And then we'll run the code again with party size equal 2. And then we'll run the code with party size equal 3. And party size equal 4. And party size equal 5. If you notice, I don't have to change what's down there anymore because I have a placeholder for what changes when the code runs. So now my code runs. Is there no video for the visualization for today? Yep, there is, Patrick. You bet. Let me drop that in the chat real quick for you, Patrick. It should be under the playlist. If you go to playlists on the channel, live streaming. We could talk some on that if you want afterwards. Stat1 is live. I will drop the video. And so always feel free. The playlist will always have the latest video. There was like one day where I didn't have it in the playlist, and I'm very sorry about that. I'm going to see an ad now. Oh, it was X-Men. That was cool. I still haven't seen the latest X-Men. 2 seconds. Here we go. Back to the chart. And that should be the visualization there. Yeah. So for your problem, and I'll drop some hints here, Patrick. For your problem, you want to do the whats. For your problem, you want to do the whats. For your problem, you want to do it. No worries, Patrick. That's why I'm here. Is it the right thing that we're asked? Is that the right thing, Patrick? And then Ryan, think for yours. You're going through what? No, Patrick, really good question. 100 points, Patrick. Anytime, man. That's why I'm here online. It's much easier. So I'm going through the different party sizes. I'm doing party size. I'm doing the average tip for party sizes, and you're doing the average tip percentage for what's? You're doing the average tip percentages for. You're doing the average tip percentages. So I am dropping some direct hints towards your question right here now. You're doing the average tip percentage for what? What are you doing the average tip percentage for? So I'll drop some big hints for this one right here. You're doing the average tip percentages for what? Weekday. Man, I think because every name's blue right now, and also your icon's the same as his. I didn't see it appear. Like I think I blinked and it appeared, and I was like, oh, the chat hasn't moved. I usually see more movement in the chat, so my eyes go straight to it. So here's where I'm getting all the values for what my loop will go through. Your loop would go through the levels of weekday. No, tips weekday. And that's what your loop will go through. So this is a huge hint right here that my loop is going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your loop is going through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday. And you can do it in this order as the vector is, but this is what your loop will go through. Does that make sense, Ryan? Your loop is going to go through these values. My loop, which is a different question I'm doing on purpose, is going to go through the values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because these are the unique values of a sorted vector right here. And you could technically, like if you really wanted to do these in order, you could do it like this. And we got to concatenate this vector now because we don't want to do a four-dimensional object. But if you really want to do them in order, which is kind of nice, you could do it like that. And that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But this is the vector. Let's put it back in. Vector for your loop. Vector from my loop. Does this make sense right here, Ryan? That your loop has the following vector of values that it'll loop through. And like literally I'm saying like this is the vector. This is the vector. Do you see where I have my placeholder? Yep. So do you see on my screen right now where I have my placeholder? Where is my placeholder, my variable? My variable, my placeholder is where? Where is my placeholder, my variable? Where is my placeholder, my variable that I'm using? What is my placeholder, my variable that I'm using? The thing that I change as I run my for loop. What is my placeholder variable? What is my placeholder variable? Anyone know? 100 points. Following along, what is Brian's placeholder variable that changes while his for loop runs? That's where I'm storing it into. So that's where it'll be stored into. But every time I was running the for loop, what was changing? What was changing? Yep, this is what was changing. Because when I run it, I can change what this is, and then it'll store into it every time. So what we're going to do, watch this, Colin. You ready? I can make this for loop in, I bet, I'm saying right here, we're going with a for loop in under, we're going to zoom out one time on this. I could zoom out. There we go. We're going to zoom out one time, and Brian's going to go for the world record here, a for loop in 10 seconds. Wrong screen. Okay, we got to get this stuff on the screen right here. Let's get a little bit situated. Let's have some fun on this Thursday, Wednesday. I don't know what day it is. So we got the stuff on the screen. Let me adjust this. I need to change the box in this because this thing always goes to that size. Okay, so we have everything ready to go right here. We're going to make this for loop in 10 seconds. We're going for world record right here. This is going to be tough, Colin. We're going to, wait, I'm allowed to hit enter. I'm just not allowed to write 4. As soon as I write 4, the clock starts. As soon as I write 4, the clock starts, okay? So I'll put my hands up when I get it done. You ready? So I have, wait, I'm just pointing this out. I have my placeholder of the thing that changes when the for loop runs. I have my vector of values that the placeholder will take on, like it'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the vector of values I know it'll go through. So this is where it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know we got, and then this is my skeleton. So that's my skeleton right there. Without further ado, here we go. Okay, oh shoot, I already messed up. We got this right here. We go, and we're doing it. FOR, we got this. Go there, go here. PS, go here. No! Clock the time on that. Man. I'm sad. If I hadn't messed up at the beginning, if I hadn't fumbled, I would have had it in under 10 seconds. It would have happened. So I'm kind of removing out all the clutter right now, all the extra work. Like we're just kind of, it was all written. I didn't change what was in the for loop. I'm just kind of removing. You should remove your extra work. And this is just to print the for loop right here. So I know. I already had all the components. All I'm doing is like mixing things together. It's like, here, I'll make this, just mix everything together because we know where our placeholder, we don't need this code anymore either. So if you notice, we need to make a blank space, which we already had on the screen. We already had that. Then we have the for loop inside of here. And then if this works, it should print the vector for us. It did it. It did it. And I think what we can do, the one thing I want to do is this is not, don't do this for yours. Don't do this. Don't do this. You won't need, it won't destroy anything. Yeah, cool. Using the number as a character will actually put the numbers above the vector, and it's a named vector now. I don't think your code will do the same thing, I think, if you do this. There's no point because you're already using a character, so the as.character character is redundant, but I turned the number 1 into the word 1, and so now this is stored into word position 1, and that's party size 1. So I guess you could go here. You want to go really fancy, you do this. You go here and you go cat, paste, and you go party size of, and you do this, another argument there. So let's rerun this right here and remake the vector. Oh no. Oh, because it's the cat. We don't want the cat. That prints to the screen. For once, we don't want the cat. And there you go. So now we have a vector that's actually got the names on it. Party size of 1. You keep getting NAs for 5 of my entries. Here, I'll drop this in the chat right here, Colin. So let me drop this in the chat and then kind of reformat the code a little bit here. So this is in the chat. And this is not the answer, but it's very, 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 very similar. So just reformat the code after doing it. And I'm just naming the vector is what I just did now to give it names at the top. And so I'm dropping this in bursts right here of like each group of code. So we'll hop back to the main screen here on these mega speed run. I love the Mega Mans. So with this right here, we have it. We've got the code done. Let's see here. More questions because we got a lot more time today. We got a lot more time. I might get a second cup of coffee here in a little bit. Cup of coffee number 2. What questions are there? If you were to count how many times I touch my hair during a class, you would lose track. You would, yeah. Hey, Brian, I have 474 homework 3 question. I have attempted 1B and can send my code, but I am struggling with for loops. That is a perfect question right there. You know, like there is no sadness. There's only Brian gets snapped away by Thanos. Let's bring up the question here, but let's watch Brian get snapped away by Thanos here. So I'll be right back. Don't leave. We're going to watch Brian get snapped away. He'll be back, though. We promise.
Previously.
Here, I'll be right back.
Stat 201.
While I bring up the question.
Hey, Brian, what's up?
Hey, Adam.
Oh, what's this?
Adam, what are you doing? Adam!
No!
I'm back. I didn't get snapped away. Okay, let's do this. We'll be watching that video later when we have like a Kahoot. So, okay. Load in the education data frame reg class. Define a vector called average GPA by pet to be initially empty. So how do we, with this right here, so it looks like you're pretty, oh, it's 1B. Which one we do for 1B? Yes, this is very similar. Love it. Here we go. So with this right here, this is, and this if you notice, because 474 has already done an additional assignment that 320 hasn't done, and then they have a little bit of a longer assignment here. So 474 does more work, longer assignments, and so we add in some extra stuff right here to make kind of you're getting like a bigger, harder class in 474. It's like there's more work to do. Sorry, 474. There's just it's the upper level class, so we do things at a higher level. And so with this right here, we have the following. And so let's think about what we have. We have this, and we have this. What are the 3 components to every for loop? What are the 3 components to every for loop? And so here, let's take some notes while we do this. So the 3 components to every for loop. And let's put the 3, nice job. The 3 components to every for loop. So we've got right here the skeleton. So skeleton, the code that repeats, never changes. And then we have here the variable. I have you guys give me the answer because I don't know. The variable is going to be placeholder for what changes in the skeleton. Can be anything. You can name it whatever you want. And then we have the vector is going to be the values the variable will go through each time the for loop runs. So our goal now with this cheat sheet is going to be identifying these 3 things right here. We need to identify the skeleton, the variable, and the vector, and then we'll be fine. We got this. We can identify these 3 things right here. Go to a nicer color right here. Skeleton, variable, vector, these 3 things right here. My work schedule always interferes with being live. Thank God for technology. If I don't remember anything after this class hangout, oh, that's that's so good, Timothy. We will not forget these right here. We know skeleton, variable, vector. And so now we go back. I love it, Timothy. Timothy, 100 points in. Elisa, right there. Am I saying it correct, Elisa? Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh no, I just deleted the what. What did Brian just delete? What did Brian just delete? That was not on purpose, but what is Brian accidentally deleting right now? What is Brian accidentally deleting right now? Alyssa. Thank you, Alyssa. My inability to see, my inability to read, compound. And once again, if I ever mispronounce your name, always tell me you were right. I'm deleting the skeleton, or email me if you're like, hey Brian, here's how you say my name, and I'll try to correct it. My goal is to say everyone's name properly, but everyone knows I'm Brawl. You can always say my name wrong. That's what I deserve. Because I just think I'm gonna say this real briefly. It actually brings me anxiety when I feel like I'm getting a name wrong. You'll see me if you watch in the videos. Maybe people have noticed. I'll start to like slow down. I think it's a really big thing to like say someone's name correctly, and I feel really bad if I mess it up, and then I'll mess people's names up without knowing it. So if I say it quickly, I don't know I'm making a mistake. If I say it slowly, I'm getting I want to. It's your name, and I want to say it correctly. So there we go. So this is the skeleton, and where is the variable? Let's write a for loop to help us out right here. Don't put this in your question, but let's go right here and write for, and there we go. There's the variable. So every time you write a for loop, use the snippet. There's these things inside of here called snippets. So if you write a function, you can just type fun, and then you get the snippet for it, which is like a kind of quick way to write it. It'll give you the kind of container for that thing. We're not writing functions right now. We're writing for loops. So where is the variable? Where's the variable in this for loop? Where's the variable in this for loop? What is the variable? Word. The variable is word. And then what is the vector? Which I think it's pretty obvious right now what the vector is. The vector is this. So I'm going to do another very similar question to this, like almost identical. And let's look what happens here. So this is a almost identical question to this. If we have another for loop, because why not? If we have a for loop right here that is going to use the variable, which is going to be a placeholder. Well, you know what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to write your code first. I want to do 1 times a number. We'll just call this number. So I'm going to do 1 times a number. And then in the number, we will put in 1 and we'll run it. Oh, there we go. 1 times 1. And then 2. And then 3. And then 4. And then 5. Did you notice the skeleton, the code that never changed? What is my skeleton here? What is the code that, as Brian does this, never changes? What is the code, the line of code that never changes? What line of code is never changing? You're right, 1 times number. That makes this here skeleton. Now, which of these, what is the placeholder for what changes? What is the placeholder making it the variable? What is the placeholder for what changes? The name of the placeholder for what changes. What is the name of the placeholder in this code for what changes? The name of the placeholder for what changes is number. So number is going to be the variable. And then what is the vector that numbers goes through? What is the vector that numbers goes through? The vector that you see number going through is what through what right now? I'm about to be the end of a for loop now. There, it's restarting the for loop after this. What is the vector that it goes through? The vector that it goes through is what? What is the vector? I'm trying to move that away so you can see. Bingo, 1 through 5. So 1 to 5 is the vector. So we've identified what the values are that numbers go through as we run this. So now that we know this, we can go here and go to number, and we want to use that number because that's the placeholder. Should have capitalized it. The vector is going to be 1 through 5. And I think it'll print to the screen, even though I don't tell it to. Maybe we'll do that. And we have to do print around it. Okay. We have to do print. And so now it prints it to the screen. So now it's doing that multiplication right here. And I guess I want to change my skeleton to do this. It's just inside the for loop. It's not printing it to the screen unless you tell it to print it to the screen. So now the code still here does the same thing, but I changed what the skeleton is. If you notice, we were able to identify the both the variable, the vector it went through, and the skeleton that repeats. Now, when you think about this code right here, if you were to break it apart, which this, Elisa, this is basically your answer to the question. Think about what it's going to do. The first time this code runs, it runs 1 into number, And then the second time it runs, 2 goes into number. And we'll zoom out here a little bit. And the third time it runs, 3 goes into number. And the fourth time it runs, 4 goes into number. And the fifth time it runs, 5 goes into number. So that shows what the for loop is doing, because every time it goes up to here, it puts the next element into number, then runs the code. So it puts 1 into number, runs this code, runs the skeleton, puts 2 into number, runs the code. So this is the visualization of when I run this, what it's doing. So it's really just doing all this right here. So you're seeing all of that happen. Does that make sense right there, Alyssa? So it's really just saving into number this value, and it moves through and changes what number is each time. And then the skeleton is always the same line of code. Yep. And then, so think about this, because the skeleton always runs. So with this line of code, I'll let you put this in the chat if you want. What is the skeleton for this line of code? Like, you can tell me the line if you want, like the line that has the skeleton. And you won't change what the skeleton is when you run it, because the skeleton doesn't change. The skeleton is just the same thing over and over again. And if you look at kind of what's on the screen here, yep, line 65, you're right. Line 65 is the skeleton. So then think about what's going to happen right here is the first time you run, and you can drop this in there. What's going to happen the first time you run this code? Like, what will happen the very first time you run this code? Like, when the code starts, like my code starts here, what happens when this code starts? Like, when this code starts, before it goes to the skeleton, what will your code do up here? And that's kind of the hint right there. And you can put that answer in the chat if you want. Like, you can be like, oh, the first thing I should write is this, does this. And if you get that line, you can probably deduce the rest, because it's the same theory as right down here. And it's like, oh, this is what it's going to do. It's going to go this to this, and then run skeleton, this to this, and run skeleton. It's very similar to the 320 question we wrote. Because we basically, this is, it's a good way to understand the theory. It's like, okay, you have these components. Not close. So, but wait a minute. Does this ever change? Does this ever change right here? Will this ever here change? When the code runs, does the skeleton ever change? Does the skeleton ever change when the code runs? You see how I've highlighted this and it's showing me the same identical code? Does the skeleton ever change? And look at the things up here. It's almost like it's dealing with this line of code first. So it's almost like it's doing an action here, and then it runs this. And then it runs this. It runs this, and then runs this. It runs this, as in runs this line, then runs this line. So what is it going to do on this line right here first? What is it going to do on this line right here first? Any ideas what it'll do on that line first? What will that line of code do first? Silence, no. Feel free, and I'll give the answer right here in a little bit, but what will that line of code do first? So identify, here's the hint. When that line of code first runs, it'll take the first element of the vector and store it into the variable. It'll take the first element of the vector and store it into the variable. When that line of code first runs, it'll take the first element of the vector, so identify the vector and identify the first element, and it'll store that into the variable. So I'll repeat that again. When that line of code runs that I have highlighted right there, it'll take the first element of the vector and store it into the variable. 100 points, anyone know? Does anyone know? When that line code runs, it'll take the first element of the vector and it'll store it into the variable. I'm gonna have to let people think about that. That's the answer right there for the first line of code you'll write. Let's see. Random thing. Oh yes. Wait. You're so close, Alyssa. You're so close. So don't look at this line yet. This line hasn't ran. So this line hasn't ran yet. So don't even look here. Wait. Don't even look at this line. This line doesn't exist right now. Don't even look at that. So with that line not existing, there we go. Yes. That's what it's going to do. Like, look at the similarity right here, how this stores this into this. And then what runs next? What runs next? You're right there. That's the first line. That's the first line of the answer. You got it, Alyssa. Amazing work, Alyssa. Amazing work. That's what's going to do first. Skeleton. Then what? You can put the next thing. Then what runs next? Well, after the skeleton runs, loops back to the top. So then it runs this into this, skeleton. Then it's going to run this into this, skeleton. And from there, like, it should, yep. And then what goes next? what's it going to run next? Because you can see the answer or what it's going to do. You can see what it's going to do next. It's not going to do that, but you can put the great job, Alyssa. Does that make sense? Do you know the answer you're going to write for this? Or you're like, I got this code, I got it, and then it's just going to keep going through all the vectors all the values in the vector till it gets to the end. Yes, you're welcome. That was great work. Great work. Like this is what I want, and I'm trying to help in like positive ways, because the last thing I want is someone to just like look at the video and be like, I'll just go to the end and get the answer. I mean, I know if you can do that, but I probably would have done it too. Very off topic about the code for number 3 isn't working from Brian. I just figured it was because I had an extra space at the end of oh no, Colin, you might not have the data frame loaded in. You might not have the data set loaded up. Colin, I want you to run these 2 lines of code, then run it again. Run this line of code. I'll drop it in the chat. No, don't worry, Colin. You can ask that at any time. Like I'm breaking my code. Don't do that. That'll break the code. So, where was the space at? Oh, I'm so glad, Colin. 100 points, Colin, right there. How's Mubot? How's Mubot doing? Who has questions right now? Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Who has questions? Mubot, what is Mubot up to? What are you up to, Mubot? Oh, that's a really good advice, Mubot. You're being very helpful. You are being a helpful person, or bot, Mubot. You love some pumpkin spice. Making me jealous of that pumpkin spice. I take back everything I said, Mubot. 320, number 2. Yeah. No, Ryan, this is the time to ask. It's not due till tomorrow. Hey, we got like day and a half. So this is the time to ask Ryan, to ask like, hey, I'm stuck on this. Can you explain in further detail? So what are the 3 things? So, I don't know if it was a joke or someone's like, I'll know the 3 things that are in a for loop. So we need to know the skeleton. We need to know the variable. We need to know the vector. Every time we make a for loop, we need to identify these 3 key things. So once we identify these 3 things, I hate it when it has the blinking cursor. Watch this. Blinking cursor. Gone. So we need to identify these 3 key things. These things right here. Okay, let's do this. So let's give this a shot right here. You ready, Ryan? We're going to identify those 3 things. So we see right here that, what is this? What do you think this is right here, Ryan? We've got some code that was in quotes. We don't want it in quotes anymore. But what does that maybe look like to you there? It's got some stuff in it. It looks like that might be a what? It's a skeleton, Ryan. Great job, 100 points, Ryan. Thank you for being here and asking the questions. We've identified the skeleton, which is the code that will repeat. So now we've identified the skeleton. Now there's something in the skeleton. What is T? What the heck is T? T is already placed in there for us, and it maybe talks about T here somewhere, but it's already got T placed in here. So what is T? It's the variable. It's the placeholder for what will change. So we know that T is the variable. And now we have to figure out what T will go through, which is the vector. So T will go through what elements? It asks us to fill in the elements what through what here. So T will go through what elements? 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 What elements will T go through? Any ideas on what elements T will go through? You got it. Ryan, you have all the mixing components. If you were making like chicken cordon bleu, you would have like the cheese, the chicken, the ham. I want some chicken cordon bleu. You'd have what are those? I don't know, the coating you put on the outside of it. So you'd have all the components right here. Now all you have to do is go here and bake the chicken. Make sure to bake it to like 160 internal temperature, I think. But wait, so does this make sense here, Ryan? Is your stream covering question 2 on a separate video? Yeah, we did question 2 yesterday also. No, but this is question 2 right here, Colin. So this is question 2 right here, Colin. So we're currently doing question 2. This is question 2. And that's not that. That's the vector. So, and now that you've identified all key components, just mix it together. And once you've mixed it together, here's something you should check. You should look at it. You should see how it goes. Oh no, you're fine. Kind of like rewind or ask questions, rewind, ask questions, and check it out. I might do like a moving average thing here in a moment. I might do like a harder for loop version question. I will say this, like when we do test question, we usually do a lot of theory on for loop. So understanding the theory, like how can we test you on the test on for loops? We might ask you, like, we might show you a for loop and ask you what it does, but we can also ask you about the components. So when you hear me going over the theory a lot, like if you know those things instantaneously, you should be good for the test. So I'm always a little bit teaching to the test, because I mean, like, you should, if you watch class, understand what's on the test and know how to do well on the test. Like I'm not like being like, here's the test question, but it's like if we were to say to you, when writing your for loop, you should first write this. And the answer would be a skeleton. Like we'd have multiple choice. Like we'd say a for loop, but you don't start writing a for loop by writing a for loop. You start writing a for loop by getting a code that works on one instance of it. I mean, I'm sure people write for loops by writing for loops, but really the best way is to get it to work once, and then you could get it to work multiple times. So we start with one instance of our code working, and then we build on that to make it work on all the other instances. Can I send my code and see if it's even remotely accurate? Don't send in the chat. Are you on Discord, Ryan? You're on Discord, Ryan. We've talked many times on Discord, right? Let me hop over to the UT Marvel screen. Send it to me there. I'll tell you if it's accurate. If you have let me hop over there. So, I've got the UT Marvel up. Let me check some answers for some people. If you have, is it, because I know I don't think you go by Ryan on the, are you the, with the hat, I think? Wait, there we go. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I'm going to check it. I just saw it, Ryan, in the chat. Okay. I'm going to go here. I'm going to check the code. I'm looking through the whole thing. You don't need to concatenate the vector, but this looks accurate. I don't see a problem with it yet. It looks good. If someone else is on Discord and wants me to check something on Discord. Yep, that's accurate. I'll show you right here. I'll make one change. It's just you don't have to concatenate the vector 4 through 20, which, don't worry, it's totally fine. I'll send this back to you. It's just a small change to it and a syntax change. So you should have that right there. Awesome. What's up, Timothy? You're welcome, Ryan. And if anyone, so I think Colin had the question on here. Colin. There we go. I see Colin's message right there. Yes, it was right. We got it. So if you have questions, I see Colin right there. Here, we'll hop back. Let me delete your code out of here. Your code is correct. Great job, Ryan. You are there. You got this. Let's see the speedrun screen again. Let's do it. Speedrun time, but not speedrun time. Or not. What? What is going on? My button's broken? Well, that's weird. Does whiteboard work? What is going on? Okay, we got to do this main screen. Is that what the one I want? I don't have my buttons. Desktop. I want desktop. There we go. Why is everything going haywire? I know 2020 is like messing around with I had to like reset a bunch of stuff today, and I've got the camera over there. So I had to like reset like my computer and all these different things. Not like reset, but I had to like reboot and redo a bunch of stuff because all of a sudden things weren't working. I get error object run this line of code right here. Boop. I actually got that error too. When I ran your line of code, I got it too because I hadn't created the time object. So I was like, oh, so that's why it took like a half second longer. It's like, oh, I didn't store the object in there. But I didn't write the answer. But yeah, we have all the components right here, and as long as you run this right here, it'll store it, and then afterwards run this. So this is where your skeleton goes, and so it should be kind of obvious what to do right here. Did that work for you, Ryan? And feel free to ask questions if you have them. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask. It'll be second cup of coffee time here in a little bit, maybe before class. Awesome, Ryan. Great work, Ryan. See, should I tell you guys what I plan on doing for Halloween? No, I think that's it. What does it say at the end of it? It says, print out the contents of N to the screen once you're finished. You'll notice that eventually the same number is in the forecast, infinitum, and there it is right there. So you'll notice that it just continues out with the same number. It reaches like a steady state because it's using like an equation that's using the past. And so it kind of reaches this steady state of like the same answer. Once you print N to the screen, you've done it. And so have I told you at the end why there's no mullet, Cullen and Ryan? for those who are here, and feel free to ask more questions related to class. But my plan for Halloween, I have a big plan. I plan to dress up. I plan to do it on stream. What day is Halloween? I don't know. Whatever day it is, I'm going to dress up on that day and like the week of. But what day is Halloween this year? Let's look. Let's go to Google Calendar. But I have big plans. Big plans. Halloween, it's on a Saturday. We'll have to do it on the week up before it. Man, Halloween's on a Saturday and it's 2020. Should there be 3 variables in the final answer? 3 variables as in, so there won't be, all the final answer will be, to make it very clear what the final answer will be, the final answer will simply have this filled out. The final answer will, this is when you print n right here, Ryan, it'll look like this. When you print n, does it look like this? Like after you, so you should have the variable, the vector, the skeleton, and then once you run it, so you only need this line of code and then it'll return that. So that's a check right there for your answer. This is all you should have for your code. Like your code will have, it'll create the vector, it'll run the for loop, it'll print the vector, and then what prints the screen should be this. Yours looks different. Send me all your code inside of here real quick. Send me all your code inside of this chunk. So just copy paste the chunk as is. Like literally just highlight all the code, drop it in the Discord, and I'll take a look at that real quick here. Because I'm clicking. Why is my Stream Deck being weird? Stream Deck, don't pay you good money to be weird. Let's hop back here to this. So let me see. Let me take a look. Okay, thank you, Rad. See, look at this. Okay, cool. Let me check it out. Okay, I've got your code. Okay, I'm gonna drop the code in here. Remove out the whole NT equals round thing. Lines, the middle line where it says your code here, remove out all that. And so gives you 7, 12, 22. Okay. Okay. Something has to be different here. Something has to be wrong. Let me see. I'm getting the same answer you are right now, actually. Oh, I see it, Ryan. I see it. I'll show it. Show it on the screen. I'll show you the difference. Let me go back to the main screen here. Okay, can I do it? My Stream Deck's not working. That's gonna be fun when I have to click the buttons today. So I've got so many different things. Where's main screen? Main screen, where you at? Desktop, here we go. There we go. Okay, cool. I have to click the buttons? What is this? What world are we living in where I have to click buttons? Do you notice, here's your line of code and here's the right skeleton. Do you notice anything different between your skeleton and skeleton we need? Do you notice a difference in between these skeletons? So there's a small but subtle difference between these skeletons. And I'm seeing if I can show it because it is up here. If you highlight this line of code, it is that exact line of code, but this will tell you right here because you can highlight code to see if it's the same code. So this is the skeleton we need. Yep. That's got it right there. And so what actually that was probably doing is wasn't even storing to those positions. It was creating an error, I think. And so those positions weren't getting anything stored because that's the object ADN. And so it can't actually do that. It can't evaluate that because we need the star between it. So does that make sense? Give that a try, add the star, give it a run, and it should work. And then highlighting code to see if it's identical is a huge help. It's the way I'll do it a lot of times to see if your code's identical. I'll drop some code in and then I'll highlight the code and then I'll see if it like matches because it'll show you like how much of the code matches. Like you can actually see your code is matching. You could do this. Oh, wait, there might be a space. You could literally see it matches up to like a certain point. You can see right there is where the matching stops because, oh, wait, did not? Oh, it won't actually show once you get to there. Oh, it's the 8. That's weird. Oh, because ADN, it's treating the object. Or it doesn't even does on that. Oh, interesting how it does the matching. Does it? Maybe I lost that when I copy pasted. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I see it in the chat right here. It's missing the times on the between the 0.80. It's when I look at the Discord, it's missing the times on it, and that looks to be the error. Did that change it? That fix it? I think that should fix it. So update me if that worked or not. Rerun all the code. Rerun the code from the start. Or do this. Send me here. I'm going to hop back to the other screen. Yeah, send me your current code again. And I'll see what the current issue is. I'm going to put a dot between us. There we go. So I can differentiate. Let's take a look. If you have questions, if you're here, feel free to ask them. This is office hours, helping out. And it's really cool that we have the Discord. Yes. Okay, let's see right here. I'll show you what to remove. So you can remove the T and the 420 and so you can remove where you have T hashtag variable 420 4:20. I don't know what I'm saying. 4:20 the vector, and you can remove those right there since we don't need those. Let's see, did it run? Yeah, this runs. Here, I'm gonna send this back to you. Just run that code as is and just run the chunk, and that should do it. Let me see how everyone's doing. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Remember, it's your time. Having trouble knitting, you might need to send it to me, Colin. You might need to send me the whole file, or paste the error you're currently getting. Like if it says like cannot find this, cannot something else, do this. But it looks like people are finishing up this assignment, which is awesome. What? Stream Deck. Let me load up Stream Deck here in the background. What is Stream Deck doing? Because it'd be nice to have my Stream Decks today. Stream Deck. That is so weird. Error in parse text. Which chunk did it happen on? Yeah, you might need to email me that because this one, and I might be able to fix that. I don't know. I don't pull my emails while on stream. I don't pull up emails, don't pull graves on stream, just in case. Like the Discord, I always keep on the other side. So, but while we're streaming on the internet with Stat201, let's see, because line 80, which is blank for my code. Do this, Colin. Email me all the code you have in line 80. Email me all your code in the chunk for line 80. So here, I'll show you in the background on mine. Email me all your code that's in this chunk. So in this chunk right here, email me all the code in this chunk. Not email. Discord me all that code. Discord me all that code. So go to Discord, hop to Discord, and Discord me all the code in that chunk. And then I'll check it out right there. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I need to put up like the classes over taking questions, but not classes over. So Discord me all the data in that chunk. I think Ryan, we got yours fixed, right? Let me look again, Ryan. Is yours working, Ryan? Did it work when I sent you back the code? Oh, you still get, and then make sure to run the whole chunk. Make sure to run the whole chunk as a whole chunk. Like just go to the chunk, and where the chunk is at, hit run on the chunk. Does that make sense, Ryan? So try running like the whole chunk right here. Like, and if it doesn't work, send me your whole RMD. If it doesn't work, and you can do that in Discord too, send me a whole RMD and I'll take a look at it there. It's probably a lot easier. So if you want, send me your whole RMD and I'll take a look. And I can pull it up right here because this is your time. This is our time to work through questions. No one else is asking questions, so it's 100%. Oh, that worked good. I was like, I don't know why it wouldn't work. I think it still had the original value stored into it, and you just had to restart the vector, and then you had to write to it, and then you had to run it. I was like, I don't know why that won't work. Like, I just was thinking through why wouldn't it work. And what shall we do next? You know what we can do? The moving average one. I can talk through some moving average stuff. You're welcome, Ryan. Great job. Great work right there. No, I mean, you got it done. That's what, come here, office hours, ask questions. And if we can focus more in, like, if there's like 5 people asking questions, then I try to jump around. But if you're the one here and you're stuck, I can take the question via Discord, hop, get the code and run the code. But no, so I'm glad that helped out a lot. Like, to me, this feels more like in-person stuff. Like, I don't know, this is easier. And then people can check their work later and do some help on it. So one of the things that people find hard to do is to get a moving average. Let's say we have here, literally, global pandemic. If we go here to cases, and we were to say like how many cases in like the thousands there currently are, you might look 34, 45, 47, 49, 50, 51, 39, 47, 48. We'll go to a new tab right here, new line, 50, 51, 58, 67, 68, 70. One more of those Starbucks cold brews. That's all I can think about now. I'm like, man, I wish I had a Starbucks cold brew. We'll go back down here. Oops, I forgot a comma. 48. The reason I'm doing the enters is to like space out the code more. Sure, and then there we go. That's good. And then let's go here, and then just putting some easy values. Cool. Okay. I figured out what I was doing wrong. I didn't highlight the entire for loop and I was trying to run it. Oh, you were just running like the inside of it? Yeah, run the whole for loop. And so you don't have to highlight the whole for loop. You can literally just highlight the first part of it and run it there, or you can highlight the last part of it. So the easiest way to run a for loop is to click the first line or the last line, and either of these will run it. But if you run the middle line, you'll be running the middle line of the for loop. So you don't go inside of it to run it. You either go to the first line, run the first line, or go to the last line, run the last line. And Ryan, that's 100 points. Thank you for saying that. It's good theory stuff to know that when you run a for loop, because I do a lot of these things so quickly that, it's like if someone asked me, how do you do 2 plus 2? And I'd be like, 2 plus 2. But, especially if you're learning it, you have to like, well, why? Why do you do 2 plus 2? And you're like, well, because this is 2 fingers and this is 2 and then that's 4. And it's like, after you do it so many times, it just becomes integrated into your brain. So when I'm like run the for loop, I just go here and do that, and people might not notice exactly where I'm clicking. But if you click here, that will not run the for loop. So here is good to run a for loop. Here is good to run a for loop. Here is bad to run a for loop. You can click it anywhere on the first line, it'll run. I don't know if I click it here if it'll run. It does. That was a good test. So you can click a for loop anywhere on the first line or anywhere on the last line. Ryan, thank you so much, because that's really good stuff for us to know. To run a for loop, click anywhere on the first line, anywhere on the last line, or you could alternatively highlight the whole for loop and run it that way. A lot of people do that. I just find it quicker to click here or to click there. And so the moving average thing, let's talk about a moving average with a for loop right here. This is kind of a good theoretical thing to understand. So more for loop examples to help out right here. We have 1, 2, let's find out how many cases we have. So one thing we often see right here is we see like the 7-day moving average on this stuff. And it's kind of cool because you can see what happens. This is like a time series question now. You can see what happens with moving averages and everything, because we're doing currently like 7-day moving averages with the for loop, with the current cases in the US. And so when you look at how could we possibly do a for loop with this, the 7-day moving average, what we could do is we could go to the previous 7 days. So think about this. It's like, where are we currently at with an average of 7 days? And that's going to kind of level things off, because if there was a sudden like jump or spike, it's going to be averaged with the other ones. So moving average kind of create a smoothing plot where it can't jump so rapidly. If there's a jump on one day, it's going to be 1/7 of that jump, because it's going to get averaged with the other ones, and it's going to have 1/7 of its original amount, or like it's changed to the other amounts. So what are we doing right here? Well, what we would do to do a moving average of this plot right here is we'd go in and we'd go to plot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we'd go backwards in time and do the average of these days to get the moving average of where we're at. We could do a window idea with it, or we could just do backwards in time. And think about this, since we're currently like saying, what is, the average of where we're at with the last 7 days, we might say, well, here's the 7-day average going backwards. That's one way to look at the moving average. And let's go right here and say, well, we want to go, when we do this, the mean of cases on days 1 through 7. So here's the mean. Oh, is cases not there? Cases has a capital C. And there's the mean for the first group. And then here's the mean for the second group. And what we could do is we could say value. Let's go moving average. And we could store into the moving average position 7. Now, the reason there are no positions before that is because there is no ability to get a moving average for the 6th day, because we don't have a total of 7 days yet. But here we could go to this, and we could do this right here, and that's the moving average there. And then we go right here. Oops. And there we go there, and we're going all the way to day 31, which would make this 31, and 31 minus 7, if my brain would work, is 24. And I think we've done it. So we've basically written our whole for loop. We've done it. Does anybody see a line of code with my skeleton? To review. My buttons still don't work. That's what we're reviewing. To review. And does anybody see the skeleton on this line of code right here? Does anybody see the skeleton, any sort of skeletons right here? Any skeletons on these lines of codes? The skeleton, to review, are the things that never change. The skeletons are the things that never ever change. So you might be wondering, well, wait, Brian, you don't have code that never changes. I almost do. I almost do. I could go here and change this, this, and this. And so that started off at 7. And so this needs to be I minus 6. And why people might be saying, why is that I minus 6? Because if that's I minus 6, the first time this code runs, this is 7, and then it's going to store. We need to create moving average first, because it said I can't store into it. That was the error I just got. And now it'll store into it. There we go. So now I've stored into position 7 on moving average the value of 45, and it's doing it as a word. Oh, because I put quotes there. I was like, why is it storing it as a word? There we go. And there we go right there. There's the value of 45. There's no moving averages before that. So on the 7th day, we get a moving average of that day and the 6 previous days. So that's a 7-day moving average right there. And so we've created the moving average value right now, which goes, and just kind of seeing it theoretically here, goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and takes the average of these days. And then the next time it runs, it's going to take the average of these days. The next time it's running, it's going to take the average of these days, and it's going to keep looping through. Now it would go down to that day there, and then it would go down to these days here and take the average of 7 days in a row. And if you notice, we created the skeleton, and I've also put in a placeholder. And I also should think about the values it'll go through, which I was showing earlier, because this went from 7 to 31. It's going to end off on the last day doing a 7-day moving average looking backwards on the last day, meaning the vector it goes through is 7 through 31. So here's the placeholder, which is the variable. The vector of values that will go through is 7 through 31. I wonder if... No, it doesn't like that. That'd be so cool if it did it, but it doesn't. So with this, we have everything we need right here. I'm just going to delete off the extra code. I'm going to then turn this code into a for loop. Colin, if you're watching, this is redemption. We're doing it. We're doing another Stat to 1 speedrun on this. I'm going to turn this into a for loop. Stat to 1 speedrun time. Let's do this. Let's do this. You are. Here's redemption right here. We got this. We got this. We got all the components we need, Colin. This is happening. Reset the clock. Going right here. Can't click the code yet. I'm getting myself ready. Here we go. Let's do this. Boom. FOR, got it. Skeleton, got it. Good. I, 7 through 31. That's it. Done. Sub 10. That was like sub 9. We got it. Now we just have to see if it works. Okay, I'm not adding any code lest anyone think I'm cheating, because I didn't add anything. I just clicked. We run it. It ran. And now let's look at it. I'm not adding anything. I'm just looking at it. Boom. World record right there. Sub 10 for loop. All we had to do was just put everything into a bowl and mix it up real quick and just say, here it is. That's got it right there. So once again, why do I do this right here? Why do I do these crazy speedrun things? The reason I do this is to show you that what took the longest part of this. The longest part of this was writing the skeleton, and then we got the skeleton to work on how many instances. If you rewind time here, how many instances, if we go way, way back in time, how many instances did I get the skeleton to work on first? How many instances did I make sure my skeleton worked on first? I got my skeleton to work on how many instances? Just simply one instance. My whole goal here first, yeah, I'll take a look at it right there. My whole goal here first was to make sure my skeleton worked on one instance of the code. And then I built up and showed how it could work on more. I found my placeholder, put my placeholder in, and then I figured out my vector, which was 7 through 31. With all that information in mind, I knew what my skeleton would be. And my skeleton's the code that repeats. It's just going to run this code every time the code runs. And then right here, we see that we have the moving average has in here I, because that's the placeholder for what's going to change. You know what we could do? Let's see here. And ask questions if you have them. I might do the Vegas example from scratch right now, which is kind of fun to do. But you could also take this and plot this. So you can plot the moving average, which you'll see it looks like a smoothing plot. So the moving average, oh, yay, we got the dip. But if you look how things look with smoothing averages, they're not as up and down jaggedy. You kind of do the window on this. You can change it to a 3-day moving average. And yeah, then you could start earlier. If you do that, you'd start on day 4. So you could do the 3-day moving average. You go here and start on day 4 and do a 3-day moving average backwards. Is that right? I'm thinking. No, it's a 4-day moving average. When I did the plot. And we do day 3. Go 2 days back. That's a 3-day moving average. See, it gets more jaggedy as you do it. It gets more towards the individual points and less of an average. So this is going to once again make it a lot more. If you notice the separation when you go from a 2-day to a 3-day to a 7-day moving average, or maybe that was a 4-day. But if you notice, it's getting more jaggedy because more of the individual variation in the points is evident without averaging them together. As we average together more points, we're getting a smoother plot. So this is the 2-day, the 3-day, the 4-day, and the 7-day. And you notice the smoothing of it and the more jagged nature of it when you go down to like a 2-day moving average. For 1A, we just put any number we want into the vector. You are right. Put any random number you want. You can store it into random, and run it. And that's got it right there. She'll go to Vegas. I'm taking more questions. It's time for your questions and my answers. Let's hop over here from the Stat 1 speed run. Let's do it. We're back. Hey, Colin. I've got something very important to tell you. If you're here, are you here, Colin? I have something very important to tell you. You know what I'm going to tell you? No! That needs to be changed. Oh, I need to save the board. 2 seconds. Ask questions while you got it. I'm just setting up some stuff for class right here as we speak. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it. Don't let Brian get too off topic. Okay, let me finish. Let me set that up again. Worked so hard for that. And then I forgot to save my settings. So if you have a question, ask it. For 1A, we just, oh yeah. Oh no, same question. Let me fix the board. Okay, I got it. Okay, let me save my settings. Profile. I put 6 in for random, and it still runs the vector with random instead of 6. Yeah, no, well, 6 is random now. So when you insert here, I'll show that real quick. But first, a very important message to Colin. Where's my... Sorry, I've got... There we go. Okay. Ah, that's my thing right here. A very important message. Now let's take a look at that. But first... Look at this graph. There we go. I'm done. Okay, let's take a look at the graphic right here. And let's see. So when you put the placeholder in, put it there if you want. And you'll put it right here. So you'll choose a random number right here. And that's what it'll be. Does that make sense? You'll put the random number there. You'll keep random here because I stored 5 into random. And then there you go. Is that making sense right there? So you'll just put the number you want, the random number you want. Flip. Oh, that's another me. What me did I just flip around? I should never make changes live. Awesome, Ryan. Great job, Ryan. There we go. Never make changes. What questions are there? Smaller over there. What questions are there if you have them? Visualization number 5, but you're still confused. Mallory, good to have you here, Mallory. Let's get started. Let's do a little stat 201 right here. So I should have those graphics up. This is my son, Brian. Don't talk to my son. Memes. Memes. I wonder if I could do that meme. Let's pull up some Excel right here. So 2 seconds. I'm going to get Excel loaded in. Let's talk about some visualization number 5. I'm going to get serious here. So visualization number 5 in Excel. And Stat Tool 1 survey data I think we're working with. Let's do this. Okay, so visualization number 5. Let's hop back to the main screen right here. And sorry, my Stream Deck said no today. Desktop is what I want. Cool. Okay, we're back, Mallory. Let's do this. And so with visualization number 5, you're making 2 different pivot charts and pivot charts more specifically. So you need to make a pivot chart first. I can't remember what exactly it displays, but how far are you in to making your pivot chart? I'll go through the steps right here to make the very beginning of it, which is where you will go to Control A or Command A on a Mac. Select all the data to start. With all the data selected, you'll go to Insert, and then you'll go to Pivot Table. So the first thing you make is a pivot table. So we're going to make our pivot table right here. And now we're just going to click OK because since we selected our data, everything's good to go. Boom. Now we're going to go ahead. We're just going to hop out of the way here a little bit of this because we might be blocking that. I did the first step, which is Command A on a Mac, and then made the data in the new sheet, but the data was not showing up. Is this showing up right here, Mallory? Is this showing up over here? Do you see this right here or no? Does it look like what I currently have? If not, we'll go back to the start. Good question, sorry. No. Okay, let's check this. Are you working currently? You're working on a Mac because you said Command A. You're also in Excel, right? You're using Excel. Everything, but does it look like? Do you see this area over here on the far right? Do you see like this? Is this? Look over here. You see this? Good. Does your screen look like my screen right now, where it just has? So what is missing? Like what is currently missing? I'm trying to think. It might be. Let's see. You don't see the stuff to the right. Do this. Go up here to Pivot Table Analyze. Do you see, is there a thing that says Pivot Table Analyze right here? Is there a thing that says Pivot Table Analyze? And then if you see Field List, under Pivot Table Analyze, do you see Field List? So Field List, I'm guessing for you, is not selected. And go to Pivot Table Analyze and go to Field List. And that should make that, tell me if you don't have Pivot Table Analyze, then we'll figure out what's going on there. But if you did create the pivot table, there should be the tab now, Pivot Table. Great job, Mallory. Great job, Mallory. I should have a happier sound effect. I don't know. I think everyone can hear that, right? Little rocky top in the background right there. So with this right now, you can take the variables. Now, what is the first thing we select? What is the first thing we select here? What is the very first thing we take when we're making a pivot table or pivot chart? Might have to bring up like Brian Stevens in the background right here so he can kind of show us, because when we make our first pivot table and pivot chart, let me go here to the videos. When we make our first pivot table and pivot chart, what do? The very first thing we do, I'm going to class. There's so many videos on this channel. They all look the same. Where is there are the pivot tables and pivot charts. Okay, and then I've got the timestamp in here when I showed it. The very first thing we do, we're about to have Brian Inception, as we usually do in the class. Okay, here we go. There's Brian and Brian. Okay, so here's the steps right here for when we're making a pivot table or pivot chart. And so the value you want to display, bingo. So pause the video here. Brian looks out of it. There we go, better. And so choose the variable you want to display, choose how you want to display it with the decimal formatting, choose the rows or the columns you want, that's optional, select what you want to filter, make your pivot chart, and then fill out the following. So right now we're on to the step of right here. Let's go over here. And now we're going to go to the following, where we are going to choose the variable we want to display. So I'm not going to quite do your problem, and this is the way I'm going to do the help video for it too, is I'm going to choose something like, let's say, awesome, Calzone, so good to see you here. Calzone, you know what I might do? Be hard to, 2 seconds. Calzone, every time you come into the chat, I want you to kind of mention your points to people, if you want. Let me go here. And then I'll work this problem a little bit more here. Okay. All right, Calzone, if you want to check your points, you can check your points now and see how many points you have with exclamation mark points. You probably have more points than me now. So if you want to be like checking out your points and people are like, what? you get that special honor, Calzone. So you can hop in the chat and everyone be like, what? It's like 90 million points. Okay. I know, right? You're the only one who has that. So feel free to mention that when you're in chat. Be like, hey, I got some awesome points here. Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to do here with this pivot chart is we're going to do step number 1. I'm going to get serious here. So step number 1 is to choose the variable we want to display. So I'm going to choose how many text people do in class. Like how many text people do. Now, if you notice right here, this is the total. How can someone do a decimal text? How is somebody doing a decimal text? How do you send... Why does it have a decimal? Well, I don't want this to have decimals, which is actually a really good thing right here. I don't want this to have decimals. I have no idea why it has that decimal. What I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go to home, and now I'm going to change the decimals with these buttons. So you can go right here and change the decimals because I don't see how you can send 0.1 text. I mean, when we do average right here, like we choose average, it makes sense. So we chose, we've changed the decimals. We did step 1. We chose the variable we want to display. And then also, so I can probably keep this up right here. We chose the variable we want to display, and we're choosing how to display it with the decimal formats and everything. So just realize that we're doing these steps right here. Step 1, we chose our variable down here. We chose the decimals we want, and then next we're also going to go to the value field setting, and you can choose any of these. If you're looking for outliers, you'd probably use max or min. If you want to see how many people there are, you can go to count. If you want to do the average, which is a very common thing to do, you can do this. Or if you're seeing like how many items were sold, you might do the sum. So sum has its usage. If you're like, how many of this item in this category were sold, you would do sum. Or you could say like, what is the average sales on a weekday? You would do average. So this is the average amount that people text during class a week, I think. This is how many times do you text during class a week, and this is the average amount people text. So now let's see whether or not people who, let's go here to, which one shall we do? In the honors program, let's see if those honors students are texting more or less. Whoa, look at this. There's a huge difference between whether or not people are in the honors program and how much they text. So I'm doing the optional stuff. I could stop right here. I could have stopped before even. I could have just said, yeah, people text on average 22 times a week in class. But now I'm breaking it apart by additional variables, whether or not people are honors students. And let's see whether or not major, you would think you could use major, but major's not cleaned up, and it'll create this drastic mess. Major is almost an identifier in this data set. It's not quite because it's not unique, but because we allowed people to enter in like however they wanted to spell it, you'll see like business analytics, statistics, business analytics, and there's a lot of like repeat, like all these econ, ecology, all that stuff. I mean, ecology is different, but don't use major, whatever you do, don't use it. The variable's not properly formatted right now, but let's say we go right here and go to, let's say, sure, Greek life, why not? And so we see here that the people in Greek life who non-honors are the most likely to text. And then, you know what's so funny? The Greek life who are in honors are the least likely to text. This one has a lot of variation, which is kind of cool. I really like what we're seeing right here because we've got honors yes and honors no. And it might, I wouldn't worry about labeling this yet because we've got our table the way we want it. And this is kind of, I don't want to label too much of this. Let's everyone do the exact same graphic I'm doing because this is almost question 2. I'm just kind of making my own graphic with 2 categorical variables and 1 quantitative. So huge hint right here, Mallory, I am kind of doing your second question for the 5th visualization. Once you've done this, we've done the first few steps right here. Now we are going to select what we want to filter, which I don't want to filter anything. If you wanted, you could be like, I don't want people who have broken a bone. So you'd go here and say, I don't want people who have broken a bone. I've broken a bone, so now I'm out of it. Wow. That changed the data even more drastically. So now there's even greater divide. But I just kind of did that for the, you don't have to filter things. Once again, I've got the stars on these. You don't have to filter things. You don't have to divide it up. It just depends on what you want to do or what the instructions for the assignment are. So with this right here, we're now going to do step 5, which is to turn it into a pivot chart. So to turn it into a pivot chart, we click inside of it. We go to Pivot Table Analyze, and we go to Pivot Chart. The first one's what we're going to use. There's tons of options. Truthfully, I wish I had used all of these. You even got box plots. That's so cool. So, hey, what's up, Ryan? Feel free to ask a question. Feel free. We're going for like another 15. And once you do this, you add in your options. So once you add in the options right here, you're good to go. Just start adding in your options. Is there a good way to make sure the for loop is working correctly? Look at the output, Ryan. Look at the output. That's a really good way right there. Ryan and Ryan, what is Mubot here? Is this the right quote from Mubot? Wonder what that quote is from Mubot. Oh, of course, Poggers. Mubot, you're such a gamer. So that's from, we were doing Kahoot and we had like 5 Andrews. And so Mubot's name was Andrew too. So does this make sense right here? How are you doing on this, Mallory? This is some help for the visualization assignment for the visualization 5. I'm going to put out a video probably later today. When is visualization 5 due? Is it due on like Monday? It's due really soon. And I think I'll have time after class to make that visualization video. So, oh, that's so awesome. You're welcome. Oh, it's Friday? Oh my gosh. Hey, what's up? The Wind Machine. Good to have you here. So I need to make that video. Today's Wednesday? That's too soon. Man, I'm sorry. This is a busy week. I moved the wrong Brian right here. Which Brian am I? I don't even know which Brian I am. See, I'm not this Brian. Not this Brian. Just, I need all, like, Brian's, not, don't talk to my son. There you go. Let's bring the real Brian back right here. I have so many things on this screen. That's the wrong Brian. There we go. There we go. There we go. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Do you have any questions like on what we're doing? Like, do you want to know more about the visualization? Just feel free. Whenever you're in one of these streams, just ask a question and be like, hey, do this, explain this, talk about this. And I think later tonight I'll be able to put out a visualization 5 video. So I'll work on that later tonight. And there is a playlist showing each thing I do right here. Let me go and grab that playlist. So I'll drop that playlist in the chat. So if you're watching this video right now and I don't have out the new video, which I should get out later tonight, I like making the new videos. I like to make it clear what I'm doing. Like, here's the step-by-step way of doing this. And then you do the interpretations. Because, like, you know, learning how to click certain things on a computer, I mean, once you know it, you know it. And so we're here to help you understand how to visualize stuff, how to interpret it. You know, making the graphic is one thing. Interpreting the graphic is another thing. So if you want, here are the videos I made a little while ago. Yeah, send me your code for 1A, but I'm not sure what the output should be to reference against. 1A is the, let me hop over to that. So there, the machine, there is a playlist right there going over how to like format decimals. And each video is like 1 or 2 minutes, very short. But I'm gonna make like a visualization 5 video. Got to make that tonight. Usually I do things on the weekend. It's like, I got the weekend. So let me go look at Q1A over here. Q1A, your output for Q1A should be the for loop. The main thing that they're going to check, so Ryan, really good advice over here, and I can look at your answer here. We got another 10 minutes, we're good. Is you're going to have a for loop here with the skeleton inside of it. So you need to turn this into a skeleton. You need to put a variable as a placeholder, and then you need to go here to the vector and make sure you have the vector of numbers. It goes through. Let me take a look at the Discord right now real quick and hop over here to the other screen. Why is my Stream Deck not working? Maybe I'll try to get my Stream Deck working. So let me go look at the Discord. Okay, here it is right here. It looks close. It might be right. I'm trying it out right here. I'll send it back to you a little more formatted. This might be right, Ryan. Yeah, it looks right. Here, here's it a little more formatted with the skeleton in the middle of the for loop. It's just the way I code it. Your code works, I think, as is. And so, yes, you have that correct, Ryan. Excellent work right there. And good job seeing everybody today. I messaged you on Discord, but I figured, oh, Mary, that's awesome. Yeah, and I can look at things on Discord on here, generally speaking. I've been hopping over to this screen. Let me see here. I'm trying to find which message you are. Wait, did you? Oh, did you mess me in the regular chat? A lot of times I look at the... I don't see... I see... Unless you go by a different name. I'll go look on the other parts of it. A lot of times I answer a lot of the, like, direct message it. Try direct message it. Did you direct message me, Mary, or did you put it in one of the channels? So a lot of times, oh, you did? Wait, is this? Yay! Maybe that's you. I just messaged someone who goes by a different name. I'm trying to wait. Let me see. Who's that? Oh wait! I think I see you. No, wait, that's not you. I am lost. Oh wait. No, I'm completely lost, Mary. So you messaged me, correct? I'm trying. I just don't see your message, so I'm like, wait a minute. I don't see under my list of recent messages. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. We had some great office hours today. We had a lot of fun. All right, let me look. Oh, I see it right here. What? Wait. Okay, wait. Got it. Okay. You were talking. Okay, I think I actually using the I. Okay, I just messaged you back. Sorry, it wasn't on my top recent. Oh wait, did you? I wonder if I messaged you while you were messaging me and I didn't see it. Sorry about that. Can you explain how you would know that I is the right output? That's a really good complex question right there. Actually, you know what? Actually, it's not that bad. Let's go show that. Ryan, great question. Let's hop back to the main screen right here. And thank you, Mary. Sorry about that. I think I messaged you and you messaged me and I was hopping between messages and I didn't see the update message. Sorry about that. I was like, I didn't see like your message like renewed. So it's right here. Yeah, no, I did. So like, I was like, oh, there, I found it on the message and I was like, where is it? So what you could do to check your answers is this code right here will actually produce the right vector. And so your answer, I think, is different than mine because you used a different for loop. So you could check your answer after you write your code by running this code right here, which is what the for loop does. And you'd run this code and you'd get this answer. And then if you write your for loop here and then do tail of x, like if I ran this code right here with the for loop in here and I got this same answer, then it's worked properly. Does that make sense, Ryan? If you run this code up top right here and run tail of x and get this answer, then you run this code down here that I have highlighted because this code will make the vector, run the for loop, and then you run tail of x and you get the same answer. That shows we have the right answer. So that'll show right there that we have the right answer. Let's see. Yay! I'll probably hop back to Discord here after this, but I think that's got it. Any other last questions for the day? Really good office hours. I'll put out a video later today, so I'll work on that after class today. So I should get a video up for visualization number 5 later this evening. I'm working on a Rick and Morty video too, because Rick and Morty. But so get ready for some Rick and Morty references at the start of class. I had to work on another video this weekend. And the video I worked on, we got a cool little outro video right now. So I'm going to, I guess, end office hours now. I'm going to reply to Discord and emails. Message me if you need anything. I'll get back to everybody. We've got a lot of great help in this video for 474, 320, and a little bit of 201. We got some 201 in. So talking about some pivot tables and pivot charts. 201 has a huge lecture today. If you're in 201, make sure to watch the big lecture today. It's on the normal curve. Probably the 320, 474. Do you guys remember the normal curve in 201? Learning z-scores and the normal curve and the percentages. If you do, you'd be like, they need to show up. Be like, you need to show up and take notes on the normal curve. This is not one of those easy chapters. This is one of those tougher chapters. So with that, we'll end off. But don't forget. No. Don't forget Rocky Top. Well, you know what? This is great music to end class with. Let's do it. Let's end class. Here we go. Or end office hours.